Let's talk about two more issues. Another issue that comes up from nuclear proliferation that you just saw in that video is this here, is that as time has gone by, the argument goes it is harder than ever to stop proliferation. Um, Technological changes. I mean, honestly, you can go on the internet. I don't recommend doing that just because you might get flagged, but you could go on the internet and do a lot of searches for how to build a nuclear bomb. And while you may not be able to get the material as easily and things like that, the expertise is out there. There are ways of skipping some of those stages that didn't exist 20, 30, 40 years ago. So, for example, it's harder to track nuclear material than ever before. And one of the big reasons is the end of the Cold War. So just work with me here for a second. Cold War's over. The Soviet Union breaks up. There are nuclear weapons all over the Soviet Union. Now, technically, they're all supposed to go back to Russia. But you can't just pack up a missile and drag it back to Russia. And in the chaos of the falling apart of the Soviet Union, what happened is a lot of this nuclear material went missing. So all of a sudden, overnight, you had nuclear material that was theoretically available on the black market for sale. Now, the United States did a lot and worked with Russia, partnered with Russia after the Cold War to try and round up as much of this as possible. But there's no telling how much actually is still out there. Not tons, but how much do you need to really cause a problem in the world? So there is some nuclear material out there that's not really, we don't know where it is. Plus, nuclear energy, it doesn't refine nuclear material to weapons grade, but it does refine it somewhat. And so the more states that are using nuclear energy, the more material exists out there that could be, again, go missing and end up being used in a nuclear program. So that's one reason, again, those stages of proliferation, how easy is it to stop those? Another one is greater availability of the technology. Like I said, the internet. But another thing is that AQCON network out of Pakistan. That has probably been the start of the North Korean and the Iranian and the Syrian nuclear weapons program and the Libyan one. Who knows what other places the AQCON network has worked with, who else is out there. Again, it's not just this guy, AQCON, but it's all the people that, work, not all the people, but some of the people that worked with him. I mean, once you've worked on the nuclear project, now you can go sell yourself to the highest bidder. And now some of the information is now out there in terms of things to expect and move past. Another thing is development of a nuclear black market. It turns out, if you want to get your hands on nuclear material, the place to go is Istanbul. That's where the nuclear black market tends to be. Now, just a warning, if you do go out there and try to, make a contact in the black market in Istanbul, probably 19 out of every 20 contacts you make is an undercover FBI, CIA, MI6 agent of some sort who's there trying to catch people trying to get their hands on this stuff. So it's a chancy thing. But there is still a nuclear black market out there. It's just not that easy. I mean, if there's one thing the United States, we don't like drugs. So we have things out there to stop drug trade in the world. But we really don't want nuclear weapons out there. You can imagine if you're the president of the United States, what's one of the worst things that can happen? Coronavirus running through and one nuclear weapon going off anywhere in the United States. So these are the things that you are willing to invest your entire government and billions and trillions of dollars to make sure it does not happen. So while there is these possibilities, there are still going to be a lot of effort to stop it. You can also make the argument it's easier to hide enrichment facilities. Now, I got the question mark on the easier because there's two things going on here technologically. For example, we have better technology that allows you to dig underground and build facilities underground that you could hide enrichment facilities. On the flip side, we also have better technology that can detect radiation, that can detect stuff happening underground, seismic readings, things like that. So the easier is a question mark. It just depends on where the technology is at the time. But the question is, let's say I'm Al Qaeda and I want to blow up something. I want to blow up a city in the United States or Europe. Like, can I get a nuclear weapon? How easy is it to get a working nuke? Like, Al Qaeda's probably not going to do this stuff. That's going to be states that's going to do that. And that's detectable, and the United States and Europe can put a lot of pressure, and China and Russia, they can all put pressure on those states to not do that. But something like Al Qaeda doesn't work like that. Can Al Qaeda get their hands on a working nuclear weapon? The answer is no. They really can't. It's just there just aren't weapons out there for sale. That's a fear that if, for example, if Pakistan falls into civil war, who's in charge of the nuclear weapons? Can they be sold? Sure, there's a number of things could happen down the road. But right now, if I really want to get my hands on a working nuclear weapon, it's just not really that likely. A second issue we want to talk about is the Non-Proliferation Treaty. And you read about this in the reading there. Does this work? The NPT, does it work? Now, the job of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty is essentially it's this treaty, like it's an international treaty that states have signed, which says, I, whatever, promise not to develop nuclear weapons. And then there's some, I realize I'm going to get sanctions if I don't, blah, blah, blah. So does it work? And here's one of the things. Its effects are hard to measure. Now, if you're a realist, do you think the treaty works? No. Treaties don't have any effect. It's if you have power, great. If you don't have power, you're screwed. Constructivism would say about this that its key effect is in developing a norm, which means that not having nuclear weapons is the normal thing to do. Iran and North Korea are abnormal by trying to get nuclear weapons. So to that degree, maybe you could say the treaty does have some sort of an effect. But let's just talk about this treaty very quickly, because it's important. We always talk about the part of the treaty I just mentioned, but there's actually two key principles of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. So on the one hand, like I just said, non-nuke signers, if I sign the Non-Proliferation Treaty and I don't have nukes, then I'm saying I'm not going to try to get nukes. Now, the U.S. has signed this treaty. Does that mean the U.S. has to give up nukes? No. Those who are signing who already have nuclear weapons, like the U.S., France, Russia, etc., they commit by signing this treaty. If you guys commit not to get nukes, then we commit to aim at disarmament. So we're going to work towards disarmament. Now, here's the thing. You notice how that's worded there. I don't commit to disarm. I commit to aim at disarmament. So you could point to the United States and say, you guys haven't disarmed, sure, but we've totally aimed at it. And so the wording of it's a little bit problematic. And this is actually Iran's big problem with the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Iran says, look, if we're going to stick by this side, you have to stick by this side. And you're not doing it, so we don't have to do this either. Since there's no real efforts at this second thing, this creates a legitimacy problem for the Non-Proliferation Treaty, and it makes the argument of if you're going to break the contract, then we get to break the contract too. So this is a really important part of this. This aiming at disarmament is part of the legitimacy. It's part of Iran's argument about the whole thing. Okay, next thing we're going to talk about can a state like Israel, is it okay for them to do a first strike, a preemptive strike, on a country nearby that doesn't like it and is developing nuclear weapons? That's the next thing. Watch this video.